Hi, my name is Mark Hefner. I'm with the Johnstone Supply Training Center, and today we're going to be going over Honeywell's T6 Pro Programmable Thermostat. Okay, this is the T6 Pro Thermostat. It's pretty similar to the T4 as well. To get into the installer settings, we're going to start with the center button and the plus button here. We're going to push and hold those for about 3 seconds. And now we can see ISU installer setup. We're going to select that, and it's going to get us into our installer setup menu. All of the installer setups have a number that corresponds to the setting, and the numbers you change with the plus or minus sign here. So refer to the installation manual that comes with the thermostat to understand what each one is, of course. The first one here is the scheduling options. Its default is a 5 and 1 day programmable. You can do a 5 and 2, and you can do a non-programmable. And if you go to setting 4, you can have each day programmable individually. I'm going to leave it as the 5, 1, and 1 for now. You can, of course, change from Fahrenheit to Celsius. 0 is Fahrenheit, we'll leave it there. There is an option for an outdoor sensor. It's a wired outdoor sensor. It's typically sold separately with this thermostat. Sometimes you can get it in a package, but if you have that outdoor thermostat and it's wired in, you can go to setting 1 to have that included as well. Then we get into the heating system type. The default is conventional forced air. There's also, of course, heat pump, radiant heat, and even cool only settings. I'm going to put it on the heat pump setting right now because it'll give us a couple additional settings later on. And it actually affects this next setting here. 205 is heating equipment type. And since I just set it to heat pump, I'll only have option 7, which is air to air, and option 8, which is geothermal heat pump. Know that if you set it as a conventional forced air, you have an option for high efficiency gas forced air, standard efficiency, oil, electric, or hot water fan coil. But again, those settings will be predicated on what setting you used under ICU 200. So right now we're going to keep going ahead with the heat pump setting though, which will also give us 218 here, which is for the reversing valve. So the O and B will default to cool, or it will default to heat, depending on which one you want it to there. We get all the way to setting 220, which is the cooling stages of the compressor. It's going to default at 1. If you have a 2-stage compressor, you can bump it up to 2. It's not going to let me do that right now, though, because that's actually this model, the TH622, will only do 1-stage compressor in heat pump. If you want it to do 2 stages, it needs to be in conventional heat mode. Next up is the heating stages. Again, since we're set up in heat pump mode on this thermostat right now, it will not let me go to 2 stages of heat, but that is available for conventional heat settings. 255 is the backup heat source. If we have an electric forced air, or a gas or even oil forced air as a backup. This could be part of a dual fuel setup if you wanted it to go that way also. And we get to setting 300, system changeover, whether you want it to be manual or automatic. So you can change it to automatic, so you can just set the temperature up or down, and it'll go into heating or cooling respectively to meet the need for that system. And then this one's a little funny. It's called Backup Heat Droop. This was a new one to me. It's the target difference between a heat pump system and the auxiliary heat strips. So you can actually program how much of a temperature difference there is before the backup heat strips will kick in. So the default is set at 0. So it'll bring those heat strips on basically right away. But you can set it all the way to 2, 3, and all the way up to 15 degrees of heat droop actually. So you can give it a little bit of leeway there before those backup heat strips kick in. All right, after the backup heat droop, there's actually a compressor lockout or balance point. There's also an outdoor lockout or backup heat. It will not let you edit these settings for heat pump systems. What we do get control of again is compressor cycle rate. For a single stage compressor. They let you pick between 1 and 6, and it's essentially how often the system will cycle and how long you want it to rest. 3 is the default, so it's about a 50% runtime. You can edit that as you feel you need to. There's the same thing for the heating cycle, except now they give you options 1 through 12, and 9 is the default, which leaves you at about the 50-50 mark as well. So if you want the heater to run more or less or have longer breaks in between, you can edit that. We also get the compressor protection. The standard is 5 minutes. This is so the system doesn't start up the compressor too often. 5 minutes is a standard across almost all the thermostats out there. I'd recommend to go ahead and leave it right there. So we just did compressor lockout. Now we get into they call it AIR, Adaptive Intelligent Recovery. If you have a schedule set on the thermostat, its default is that it will try and actually turn on a few minutes before your scheduled time so it can meet the temperature at the time you set it to. Nice little feature. You can turn it off if you want to, though. There's a maximum cooling set point. This is the lowest the homeowner will be allowed to set the thermostat if you change the setting here. There's also a maximum heating, how high they can set it if you would change the setting in the install here. It can be handy in more commercial settings where people are getting to the thermostat, maybe they shouldn't actually be messing with it. Along that line, there is also a keypad lockout option. You only see you have an option for partial lockout or none. You can set an actual passcode on there basically. It'll ask if you have an indoor temperature sensor. If you say no, it's going to skip the next setting, which is indoor sensor type, either 10K or 20K. But you can say yes or no here for this sensor. And so for now, it's going to skip that next setting as well. This is also handy. It asks for the number of filters in the home. You can say 0, 1, or 2. If we go ahead and say 1 here, it'll give us an option under 711 for the air filter replacement reminder. It goes anywhere from setting 1, which is 10 run days, up to setting 19, which is 15 calendar months. So you can set it somewhere in between that range. There's a lot of other settings included, but that'll give you a filter reminder. We get all the way to 1410, which is our clock format, 12-hour clock or 24-hour clock, your discretion there. There's also a daylight saving times option, daylight saving times on, daylight saving times off. And lastly is the temperature display offset. This can be used for a number of reasons. Maybe you have a homeowner who's not satisfied with the temperature they're seeing on their thermostat, or you have a thermostat that's old and maybe starting to get out of calibration a little bit. This can help you tune in either way. It'll give you plus or minus 3 degrees essentially. And that is all of our settings for the installer setup. So we can say it gets to the done screen, we say done, it's going to do the little save screen, and next we'll talk about how to schedule our thermostat here. Now that we have all the installer setup options done, we can go into our menu and set the actual programming for this thermostat. You'll push select here. Again, you can turn it off or on here. We're going to select on right now. The installer setup, we decided to have the schedule set for 5, 1, and 1. So we can do Monday through Friday as one solid block, Saturday and Sunday are individual. So we'll start with our block Monday through Friday. Push select, and again, you can decide whether you want it to start on wake, away, home, or sleep. Each of those settings individually. They have some pre-scheduled times and things like that in here available for you. You'll press select, and again, you can choose whether you want each one individually on or off. So you can actually set certain programs off. So you could only have a wake and a sleep if you want. It'll ask for the time, and you can adjust that in 15-minute increments here. And then first it's going to ask for the temperature you want in heating. Adjust that up or down as you desire. You push select, and then it'll give you the options for cooling. And again, you're going to cycle through that to the desired temperature. Push select, and it'll take you to the next setting for away when you leave for the day. Home would be for when you return, and sleep would be when you go to bed for the night. All of these settings are adjustable individually using the same process we just went through. You can go back, and then we can select Saturday or Sunday individually, push select, and it's all the same options there. The wake setting, whether it's on or off, the scheduled time for that, the temperature and heating that you desire, and the temperature and cooling that you desire. You select all those settings. It'll cycle through everything. When you're done, push home. It'll give you a little save screen, and your program will now follow whatever you set it for. So this has been an overview and how-to of programming and setting up the Honeywell T6 Pro programmable thermostat. For this and any other needs, come check us out at the Johnstone Supply Training Center, where you get real-world experience for your real-world career.